It's the Godwinson Live News Alert. Now, we made a video covering Millennial Woes Law yesterday, and then Sargon afterwards. They've come back from the dead with a new grift. Millennial Woes is a guide to culture. This is what he's planning on doing right now with his time. He's going to give you, Western man, a guide to life. But before he fully embarks on the new grift, he wants to tell everyone that he is a free, innocent, exonerated man, and whatever Godwinson's telling you, whatever accurate law Godwinson is putting out into the ether, is to be completely turned away. Call Godwinson a liar, an enemy of the people. I think he actually does use the word enemy of the people. So we're going to get into this. I'm not going to pressy this with anything beyond. This is the first time that Millennial Woes has gone on record with a public disavowal of the accusers and the women that have come to light. So he's going to dismantle their truth in what seems as though it's a half-hour video that was uploaded after my video. So, I mean, I'm perplexed. Was no one fucking calling Millennial Woes out on this? Did it take Godwinson to come back from the dead to lay out a 5-year caseload of law for Millennial Woes to actually go, shit, I need to actually talk to my audience and the people that are paying me money and say, wow, I'm a free man? So let's get into it. This is insanity, just to begin with. Let's go.
Hello.
Hello.
At the end of April 2020, I was accused of sexually assaulting a young woman. This allegation triggered a set of other rumours and accusations, including ones dug up from the past.
I don't think things trigger. I don't think it was trigger. I think all of this stuff was in the ether anyway. It was a cacophony of noise surrounding Woes Forever. But he tried to make it seem as though nothing was going on, that he wasn't a Scottish NEET who was a rent boy. We're not even going to get into the law because that's in the previous video. But this is not a sexual allegation comes out of the woodwork, then suddenly everyone else starts piling on and making up stuff. No, there was a consistent pattern of behavior long before this woman came along, with credible evidence that Millennial Woes was what he's been accused of. Let's go.
Let me first set your mind to rest on the most important matter. The allegation is false. So if this is an innocent man and the allegation is false, right? Surely the video should end here at 28 seconds in. Surely all he needs to say is, I'm an innocent man, get fucked. Goodbye. Goodbye, accusers. But there is a word salad that proceeds to follow this. A word salad counter, I can only describe this as for the next 25 and a half minutes, he confusingly and bafflingly seems to simultaneously corroborate this woman's story and the other stories that are around him, and say that he's still clean anyway, and he's the victim of a Me Too, and it's leftists that are doing this, and they're our enemies. He makes his enemies your enemies, which is evil. And I'm at a loss, quite frankly, as to why, if he were innocent completely, and everything was baseless and a falsehood, why he wouldn't just end the video at 28 seconds. But you're going to hear why. Sid or harassed anyone. I am not guilty of any criminal wrongdoing.
You are! You're guilty! Guilty, Your Honour!
Has a history of making false allegations against men.
So quickly, just classic, instantly blame the victim. Now here on the Godwinson channel, we love our women. God is a female. We are paid up, ardent feminists who pray at the shrine of Anita Sarkeesian and Zoe Quinn. And classic victim blaming occurs. We're not even rounding out the first minute, but he's instantly going to go straight in with the kill, own up to zero of his faults. He's just admitted that. I'm not going to own up to any of my faults. I'm just going to claim their fabrications and lies. And instead, he's going to dismantle this woman, right, and this woman's claims, but not in any detail, because if you are actually privy to the woman's claims, it's indefensible. It's indefensible.
Deliberately entrapping men, and of being obsessed with men as sex predators who prey on young women. She has framed at least 4 other men before me that I know about,
Okay, quickly, Millennial Woes. What are their names? What are these 4 other men's names? Please give them out into the ether. Please, give us the names. Did he make the 4 other men up to fabricate a history of this woman being a complete nutcase? It just seems to me that if this was... I mean, he spent 7 months, he admits to this. I've spent 7 months crafting this statement. Yet it's actually quite vacuous in terms of the content it contains. There's zero detail. A lot of stuff is skirted over, and a lot of stuff, let's be real, isn't even addressed. He's addressed a small minutiae of the wider fucking allegation tapestry that's around him. It's baffling to me that he thought this was a good idea, that he's decided to throw in stuff like... I mean, you're going to hear about this man's team of lawyers and law enforcement professionals that advise him on his day-to-day dealings. Now, usually I'm pretty fucking gullible. Usually I'll nod my head and go along with stuff like, yeah, of course John Michael Kelly's had sex. But here, I just smell bullshit. I just know it's bullshit, ladies and gentlemen.
Ways. I've seen screenshots of her doing this, and was informed by multiple people...
We've seen screenshots of you doing this, Colin.
This is something she does.
We've seen screenshots of you doing this, Colin.
I didn't know any of this.
If her screenshots are invalid, yours are equally as invalid.
Before we get to that, let me set the scene.
Set the scene. Let's get in the zone.
World, romantic connections are often chaotic. I've had my share of unsuccessful relationships and failed...
So just quickly, right? You're in the trad, white nationalist, England's a green and pleasant land, and I love my fields of Albion, right? And you're saying that relationships in this sphere are chaotic? Isn't that entirely contrary to the base trad wife you preach your followers to go and get? If anything, this should be fucking easy to get a woman, right? And keep her on a leash and stop her from doing shit like this. Millennial Woes. You're apparently a leader of the white race. A leader of the white race. And you're saying that, you know, all men in the white nationalist movement who get a trad wife are going to have these problems. Are going to be in a chaotic spiral in their love life. No. Because you know why? Because not all of the young lads that follow you have herpes yet, have transmittable STIs that are scarring them for the rest of their life. They're not riddled with AIDS. They are not. They are not Scottish neats who've spent the past 15 years on the dole. They're not going to Richard Spencer conventions and talking about how bestiality is apparently a great thing. You have... Whoever's watching this and is actually following Woes even sincerely, just recognize that this man is entirely contrary to everything you should believe in. And everything you should follow should be entirely opposite to what this man tells you to follow.
And I'm not going to claim that I have always behaved like a saint with women.
And he's not going to say...
What man has.
So here we go. I'm not going to claim that I've always been a saint with women. What man has. So he's not going to go into any of the detail, the credible evidence that is against him, that is stacked against him so heavily that he had to cancel himself and remove himself from the race for 7 months. He's not going to go into any of the detail. And he's just going to write it off by saying, well, we've all done it, guys. No, we've not. We've not all sent pictures of our riddled, gonorrheaed penis that we've nicknamed the God Rod with pride to random women. We've not sexually abused them. And we've not, and certainly, right, the vast majority of us haven't been falsely accused of what Millennial Woes has been accused. It's just not the case. But he's going to try and project all of his problems onto you and say, the evil thing is, he's going to say that this is going to happen to you. It's not going to happen to you. Because you know why? You're not Millennial Woes. You are not Millennial Woes, and you shouldn't try and mold yourself into his image. I'm sorry. No woman I've ever slept with has done anything remotely similar to what's been happening with Millennial Woes, but he's going to say that we've all had this experience. No. You haven't been Me Too'd, Millennial Woes. Instead, everything that has happened is entirely your fault. Yes, guilty.
I do not go around, and never have gone around, looking to abuse, exploit, manipulate, or harm women. In order for the impression that I do to be convincingly created, a number of people needed to distort truths and to invent lies.
So now it's a grand conspiracy. All of these women and all of these lads have all just decided to make it all up. All of it's been made up over the many, many years that Millennial Woes has been around. It's all a fabrication. It's all a conspiracy theory against Millennial Woes. Now, Millennial Woes isn't in any way a relevant political figure. Let's be real and honest with ourselves. Millennial Woes is not the leader of the white race. I'm sorry to break this to you. Somebody might need to take a seat and just calm themselves down upon that revelation. Millennial Woes, he's not a big cheese. He's not an ear juice. He's nothing. He's an amoeba, a peon. But there's a vast array of smoke around him that is credible. That is credible. Do not believe this man's lies. There's more. There's more. Bear with me.
And to spread this slander as much as they could.
Slander!
How many people were involved in doing this? 8.
8. So he's managed to find 8 stooges that he can pin the blame on. And these stooges are obviously going to be probably Antifa members, probably incredibly left-wing, so he can try and bat off all of these accusations as, look, the left is coming at me, please protect me, right-wing, please give me your shekels, please save the white race, because I'm being Me Too'd by these evil leftist women? No, because this is your own side. But apparently there's 8 people that have randomly, by coincidence, one day just all decided to wake up with the same story, told over many different times. Apparently that's exact, and sharing the exact same intimate details that Millennial Woes does confirm, but apparently it's all lies. Apparently these 8 women, there's an 8. There's 8 women that should be completely disbelieved. Okay, fine. Okay. Let's get into the Twilight Zone. Let's walk across yesterday's Enterprise. Let's quantum leap into Millennial Woes' coat blanket.
You might ask, how did I make 8 enemies? Oh.
Well, I don't ask that, Millennial Woes, because I know how you make enemies. I mean, look at you. Look at you. You preach that you're one thing. You ostracize others within your community and say they're bad actors, and you say that they are evil and therefore leftists and therefore should be banished. Meanwhile, you try and position yourself as a figurehead for the white race. When you are a former, and I assume still practicing rent boy, you're riddled with disease. You don't disclose those riddled diseases to the women and other grifters, other simps that you're trying to corrupt, pollute, until after the fact in a Discord message or a Twitter DM. What?
Course of 7 years in a community, it happens.
Community.
If you let somebody down, even if you apologise, as likely as not, they will thereafter be waiting to get revenge.
Not true. Not true. Look, if you apologise to someone and you do so sincerely, 9 times out of 10, things will be okay. How men settle their beefs is usually a handshake, all is well in the world. Done. Finished. But if you're Millennial Woes and you keep up this behaviour, and you behave the way Millennial Woes does, I mean, don't forget that he's been calling himself a sort of Evolian aristocrat. A Nietzschean Ubermensch is what he's been calling himself. He's not sincere in any apology he gives because he thinks we're all ants. He thinks we should just be completely disregarded because we're all ants. But, fuck. Dude. Bro. Brah.
Wrong, and you pull them up on it. As likely as not, they will thereafter be waiting to get revenge.
No, doesn't happen.
Tell a friend some home truths that they really don't want to hear.
Home truths.
As likely as not, they will thereafter be waiting to get revenge. If you tell somebody in a Telegram group that their destructive behaviour is damaging community morale, as likely as not, they will thereafter be waiting to get revenge.
So quickly, right? He's not provided any detail. He's not named characters in this. But he's very passive-aggressively given us as much detail as we could possibly receive without him actually naming the character for us to find out who it is anyway. Why not just say them? I mean, look, no, I have never been in a Telegram group. I have never been I have never called someone out in a Telegram group as a bad actor and then had that person within the Telegram group call me a pen. Like, it just doesn't happen. This is purely a situation unique to Millennial Woes. But he's trying to make out that he's the everyman. That he's like you and I. And the various neat simps out there that think Millennial Woes is saving. Whoa! Don't believe his lies. That's all I can say.
If you sleep with a woman, not realizing she's expecting a relationship out of it, and then don't give her a relationship, she might well decide to claim that you assaulted her.
Well, why would a woman want a relationship with you after she slept with you and found out that she has to go to the doctors the next day and take a lot of medication to try and rid herself of the sexual diseases you've polluted her with? But apparently this woman wants... apparently these 8 women want... these 8 women, upon receiving what can only be described as like a death sentence, suddenly then just want to be Millennial Woes' wife. All 8 of them.
And then there are people who simply decide to have it in for you, because attacking a public figure brings them attention or sadistic satisfaction. Such is the case with the first person...
Just quickly, there's no sadistic satisfaction in going after Millennial Woes. I see this as a public service. I see this as seeing a load of young, impressionable people falling for the lie, falling for this weird honeypot man, this Millennial Woes character, thinking he's based, thinking he's just like them, thinking he's going to lead the white race to its salvation. And I see accusation after accusation throughout history of Millennial Woes be forgotten about to the sands of time so we can continue to grift. This is the cycle that keeps happening with this man. And suddenly, you know, things just magically get forgotten to the point where he does another one of these videos talking about and detailing his history of crimes, sexual crimes upon the innocents. I just don't know. I don't know how far this can continue. How many more cycles of this do we have to endure? Why can't people just write stuff down? Why can't people just commit stuff to memory? Why is it every 1 or 2 years we have to do this exact same video, calling out Millennial Woes, telling the young lads out there, no, stop it. Don't give this man money. Don't think that because you're going to be on Millennial that you're going to be a big mover and shaker within the ethno-state. It's going to ruin your life. It's going to ruin your life associating with Millennial Woes.
A story. 2 years ago, a friend of mine was flirting with a young woman who later turned out to be deranged and vengeful. In an effort to impress
that's an objective, unbiased take. She was deranged and vengeful.
Millennial Woes. I don't know whether he distorted the things he told her, or whether she misunderstood them. But by the time she decided to repeat them publicly...
But again, we have no context or detail for what he's talking about. Like, at all. Because he refuses to own up to his actions and read aloud the screenshots that we're all in possession of. He refuses to actually say that he named his penis that was riddled with warts and... and small insects. He refuses to say that he actually proudly called it the God Rod. But instead we're dancing around this like he sees himself as a politician. This is something like a Tory politician would say after they've been found, you know, bent over, being paddled on the bottom by some madame somewhere in Soho. And it's been snapped by the paparazzo, the pepperoni. This is the statement you give upon resignation. Resignation, I should say. This is the statement you give after you walk past headline upon headline of you on the newsstand of being accused of incredible crimes and then having the photos all over the place. This is exactly the statement you give.
It had become barely recognisable. Most of what she said was simply pulled out of thin air. She claimed, for example, that I have various dark sexual interests, including wanting to enslave women and taking pleasure in spreading STDs.
Yes!
Absurdly, this woman...
Well, what else would justify your behaviour? You know, so you're not taking pleasure in doing this and not informing the women otherwise, and beforehand, before you decide to, you know, be gratified by them. You don't really truly inform them beforehand. It's only afterwards when they've been to the doctors that they realise, oh shit, So, I mean, what other justification is there? It's a valid assumption to assume the man does it for pleasure. I mean, is this man really this naive? He's 40-something. He's doing this. There's a pattern of history regarding this. Is this man really so trying to pass himself off as this naive? Like he's a child? That he just cannot understand how people can draw? How people can draw a conclusion from the correlating data that points to that natural end? Is he that obtuse? Is he that insidious? Let's be real, because this is quite insidious. I feel like I'm being manipulated. This is gaslighting at its finest. Well, I wouldn't say finest, at its most incompetent.
Interviewed about me by an investigator from 4chan, who published the interview.
An investigator from 4chan.
This interview rightly
the hacker known as 4chan did it to Millennial Woes.
2020. At that point, I was falsely accused of sexual assault, and this interview about my supposed dark sex life was dredged up. The important thing is that the only reason this fantastical interview was taken seriously was that it seemed to be validated by the assault allegation. But that was also entirely false.
But then, again, he offers nothing to support this allegation that it's false. Like, at all. Because it's real! Guilty! 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 I don't understand. What? So you're supposed to believe that his entire history that's been commented on by better men than me, right? People who've experienced Millennial Woes molesting them or trying to molest them, right? The allegations are all out there, widely available. But you're supposed to believe that it's all just conjured out of nowhere because this woman that Millennial Woes has slept with decided to go on record and therefore makes all of the fiction real. Now, I've got so many question marks around that. I've got so much around that I just want to, like, hold my head in my hands and scream about. But if we do that, we'll never get through Millennial Woes' statement.
The background to the assault allegation. A woman approached me online in late 2019. We shared music and chatted, but nothing flirtatious.
We shared music and chatted.
We met at the PA conference in March 2020 and felt a mutual attraction.
I mean, that mutual attraction is disputed. Incredibly. PA is the patriotic alternative, I think. I think it's Mark Collette's new grift. And Millennial Woes was banished from it for doing this to this woman, for polluting, corrupting, and damaging this woman to the point where Mark Collette had to go, fuck, dude, you've got to go. You've got to go. Goodbye. Please just sort yourself out. Get a job or something. But
afterwards, flirted heavily. She was 20.
Flirted heavily. That's the that is the biggest understatement I've ever heard. He was sending god rods to her. But they flirted heavily, right? It was mutual. Let's get into the Twilight Zone.
Younger than me, but I wondered if a relationship was possible. At the end of March, she was going to be travelling my way, so I invited her to break up the journey by staying the night at my place. She accepted this invitation. An allegation of assault, in the absence of forensic evidence, is very difficult to definitively prove or disprove.
Which is why he's decided to make this statement 7 months later. Which is why he's decided to wait this long to make this statement. Because clearly he knows now that this woman isn't going to go to the... In fact, she probably just wants to be left alone. She probably is, living with the trauma of having slept with Millennial Woes. Just imagine, in fact, don't imagine that. You'll have nightmares for weeks. This is why he's doing this now. This is why he thinks he's safe. And he'll probably get away with it. He probably will get away with it. There'll probably be fucking stupid assholes out there, fools, who will give this man money and continue his grift and pretend that he's the leader of the white race and pretend that he's being Me Too'd and pretend, this could happen to any man and stuff like this and Millennial Woes is my mensch. if you are that person, I just don't know what to say to you. I want to sell you something that I don't have for an exorbitant sum of money. That's what I want to do. I want your credit card details, please.
That's why it's very difficult to get a conviction, but also why it's such an effective way to falsely defame somebody. A woman merely has to spend a night with a man, and afterwards she can claim that anything happened. Even if there is no evidence, the damaging rumour will persist. However, in the case of this woman's claim against me, there are many ways in which I can demonstrate that it is false.
But so there is evidence, because we've all seen the screen caps where it's definitively proven and confirmed to be Millennial Woes doing this. It was all put out there. This woman didn't just make this up spuriously, because if she had, do you know what Millennial Woes would have done? He'd have gone, "It's not true, fuck off." Do you know what Mark Collette would have done? He'd have gone, "It's not true, fuck off." But instead, there's a valid, probably, if you were to print it out and bind it together, full novel of evidence against Millennial Woes that even his friends or former friends cast him from the temple because of. There's no mystery, there's no grey area. The man left the internet for 7 months without any explanation because he knew the fire was too hot. Clearly, it's just me.
She willingly came to stay the night at my place, knowing that I was attracted to her, and having told me that the feeling was very much mutual. Once at my place, she led me to the bed. Once we were in bed and kissing, she took off most of her clothes without any prompting from me. Thereafter, she was frequently the one steering events, not me.
It's like John Michael Kelly is narrating events, isn't it? So we're supposed to believe, right? Millennial Woes, thirsty as fuck. He's got this girl in his room. She's considerably younger than he is, right? He admits that. He's got this girl in his flat, right? And Millennial Woes is just sat there talking about his synths and Doctor Who. He doesn't know that this is going to lead to a sexual encounter. He's not a participant in this in any way. He's completely passive. Completely passive. She apparently, according to his words, scoops him up, carries him to the room, lays him on the bed. Millennial Woes is just stiff like a robot here, like a broken down robot. And she's undressing herself. Millennial Woes will tell you that he did nothing. He was not even any way active during. This is insanity. That he thinks this exonerates him when it's blatant is just baffling to me. But the level of autistic detail is brilliant. But, I mean, it's selective detail because you've got to see that listen to the selective detail that's given. Everything that she does is outlined in comprehensive detail. We've just seen all of the actions outlined. Listen to what he does and tell me if he's given the same right of expansive detail that the lady is.
At no point did she seem distressed, as she later claimed.
Well, she probably didn't know she was having STIs yet, did she?
It was a normal encounter between a man and a woman. There was no abuse, no emotional upset, and certainly no assault.
Just quickly, I mean, because you're going to hear what I've just said prior. If you're infected by someone, but you don't know you've been infected by someone, you have to go to the doctors afterwards and find out that you're fucking riddled. I mean, that's abuse, right? That's abuse, isn't it? I mean, whilst the initial encounter may have been consensual, because one party was completely misinformed of the other one's STIs and warts and bugs. Maybe it's just me. Maybe it just is me. Maybe I'm completely off my rocker here, and I'm saying stuff that's just completely alien to what Millennial Woes believes, but I suspect that he does. There's just a scintilla of humanity left in him where he recognizes that he's done an abusive act by not telling this woman what he has, what he's riddled with, sleeping with her under false pretenses. Then she goes afterwards and finds out what's happened to her, and then she calls it. That's a valid way of defining yourself as being abused. I don't know. Maybe it's just me.
Didn't go all the way, so to speak, and that was a red line which I had set beforehand. I did do some things, and this activity was initiated by her, not by me.
Well, I hope her teeth don't
I
fall
would
out.
challenge any man in those circumstances to behave differently than I did.
So now he's trying to make it about every man. Every man would have done this. Every man would have lied about their STIs they're riddled with, what they caught when they were a rent boy in London. Oh, London town, they're at art school. Every man would have done this and lied to the young, impressionable woman that was considerably a few years junior to them. Every man would have done this. Every man would have done this. Isn't that right, lads? Millennial woes is the archetype, the male archetype, the phenotype.
We slept together. Then the next day we got up and had a pleasant time
That
together.
level of detail. That level of detail. So just quickly, he says they didn't have sex, right? Full sex, whatever he defines full sex as. But they slept together. Now, common parlance in England is if you sleep together, you go all fucking 9 yards. But apparently we're taking it in its most literal sense, and they slept together. Maybe they topped and tailed. Maybe that's Millennial Woes' version of events. Or maybe she slept on the floor.
Really happy. We went for a walk, including to secluded places. We chatted, and things
We went for a walk, including to secluded places. Tonight on 60 Minutes, did he bury her in the woods? Like, come on, dude. Like, you just sound guilty. We went to an abandoned place.
We were laughing and joking. She continued to flirt with me.
Because she didn't.
and returned
I
to my flat and
assume
lay
if we
down with
had
me
taken
again. When
I
I
assume
told
she
her
didn't
that
know
we
what
were
she
in a
can
relationship material,
fucking.
She seemed fine with that. She even suggested a casual sex arrangement and
All of this is under the pretext of her not knowing that he's riddled, that he is polluted. Oh,
which I rejected on the basis that it wouldn't be good for her.
no, it wasn't, because she'd have a serious health conditions, I assume. I assume she'd have the ability of being fertile taken and snatched away from her. Of course it wouldn't be good for her. What other pretext would he say it wouldn't be good for you? You tell me, please. Please try and make sense of Millennial Woes' words here for me. Please, God.
We eventually parted ways at 5 p.m. She sent me affectionate messages and continued to talk speculatively about a relationship.
Then she went to the doctors and thought, oh.
According to 4 legal professionals, all of these details pretty much destroy any case that she has against me.
Now, I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, but I've had to deal with solicitors and other such things in my past. It's a very costly thing to retain the services of 4 of them. And usually, if you need 4 solicitors or lawyers or something, whatever he's saying here, legal professionals, you're probably very guilty. There probably is a big case of evidence against you that you've tangibly gone to these lawyers with and gone, look, is it just me? You don't just go to a solicitor saying, I've just been accused of sexual assault. There's no basis to this. And so we go, okay, right. Well, what does this woman have? Oh, well, she's actually got a big fucking dossier on me where I've actually done the things that she's compiled and gathered. So but again, we're supposed to believe the LARP that this man has 4 lawyers in his Who do you know having 4 lawyers, 4 personal lawyers that you can call upon in moments of crisis? Is it bullshit, ladies and gentlemen? I don't know anyone that's got 4 lawyers. I don't. Maybe the president? maybe world leaders? And incredibly senior politicians can retain the services of 4 lawyers to look at. I just don't even know what I'm doing here.
Because no woman
it's a
would
farce.
behave like this if she had been assaulted by the man the night before.
What if she finds out afterwards that
I've
she's
told you
riddled?
some of the many things that she did wrong in her case against me.
He hasn't, by the way. That's a gaslight. He's just said, I've told you some of the many things that she did wrong in her case against me. But whilst saying none of the many things whilst saying nothing, whilst giving us a detailed account of him being JMK'd, of JMK having sexual intercourse, whilst giving us an incredibly biased account, like, I did not have sexual relations with that woman. Read my lips. No more taxes.
Then she got right was to later coax me into falsely incriminating myself.
The thing she got right was actually getting me on the record. was actually compiling the words I said that can be used against me. The thing she got right was...
Followed. She steadily became angry and resentful towards me. Then we got into a text conversation online. She seemed very emotional. As a result, I was concerned solely with comforting her. I didn't care about the accuracy of what she was saying about the night we had...
Okay, lads. Right. You've slept with some crazy hoe. You've slept with some fucking wacko nutjob Fruit Loop. She's in your DMs. She's saying it's gonna kill itself. She's saying she's gonna set fire to wherever you're living. She's saying that you've raped her. She's saying that you've given her sexual diseases. She's saying that you're Godrod. Godrod gave her warts there. Right? Is the way you behave subsequent to receiving that deluge of messages is to fully confirm everything she said? Is that what happens if you're a free innocent man? Is it though? Is this what happens? So everyone that's accused of this sexual assault just instantly goes yes. Yes.
Together. I even went along with several of her statements. But this was purely because I wanted her to know that I was taking her distress seriously. But my doing this was later seen as an admission.
Why didn't you just go? Get fucked? Wouldn't you just block the loon? Why didn't you just go? Wouldn't you just block the loon? Wouldn't you just go get fucked, bitch? Why would you... Why on earth would you agree with it? Then substantiate all of her claims. Just to pacify her. The reality was, he was trying to keep her quiet. That's what the whole thing talks about. Like, he's trying to keep her quiet. He's a man with a reputation. She could ruin his career. Millennial Woe's career. If Millennial Woes has a career, then there's hope for us all. There's hope for all of us. The man hasn't got a career. He's got a lifetime career of being on the dole and doing this to people.
My part that her statements were accurate. They were not. No, I did not force her to do anything. No, I did not ignore her pleas for me to stop. There were no such pleas. But at the time...
Look at what he doesn't deny. He doesn't go, no, I didn't infect her with sexual diseases. No, I didn't give her warts. No, I didn't give her insects. No, I didn't ruin her life. But what he does deny is just stuff that nobody can corroborate. At least, I mean, this woman actually has more evidence in her claims than Millennial Woes does in this disputation of them.
I thought it would be a bad idea to remind her of how the night had actually played out, as it would surely only upset her to be contradicted.
So I thought it would be a bad idea to clear my name from this crazy bitch. I thought it would be a bad idea to go, wait, no, that didn't happen. What the fuck is wrong with you? You're a fucking hoe. You're nuts. You've got a brain drain going on. Like, no man actually... I'm going to talk on behalf of all men. I'm going to do it. I'm going to be Coach Red Pill. I'm going to say no man does that. No man goes along after being falsely accused of sexual whatever this was. Because I don't even think this is what like Harvey did or Bill Cosby did. Maybe it's what this reminded me of at the time. Remember Jim Carrey? He gave like a woman diseases and then she killed herself. Remember that? And that got forgotten about? That happened when this happened at the time. I thought he's done a Jim Carrey because that was the closest thing I could equate this to. But this is far worse. This is like ethno-state Jim Carrey.
Into this conversation, she hinted that I had assaulted her. I was immediately taken aback. I signalled that I thought it was insane to apply that word to what had taken place between us.
He signalled.
Apparently agreeing with that, she substituted the word coerce. In an effort to be diplomatic, I foolishly went along with that.
I foolishly just went along with this woman's entire narrative of events. I was cast from the temple. I was told by Daddy Mark Collett that I was no longer going to be a leader of the white race. But this is the cope. This is the 7-month formulated cope from Millennial. You know, I did actually watch this before I did the video, but giving my thoughts aloud on this has made me laugh to such an extent where it's actually quite difficult for me to listen to him talk. It's like a clown is talking. It's like Bugs Bunny's talking.
The definition of coerce is much stronger than the everyday usage, which to my mind is fairly broad. Officially, to coerce means to compel by force or intimidation. Let me be very clear. Absolutely nothing of that nature occurred. I should have just told her that she was utterly wrong, but I wanted to avoid escalating her seeming distress.
I didn't want to escalate this woman's seeming distress, but he did, because he kept telling her to shut up and be quiet and not ruin his career. He's denying saying what actually happened. Maybe this is for someone else to do the analysis of. Maybe I just can't do it. Maybe.
I was trying to calm her down so that we could have a more sensible and honest conversation. I now believe that her distress was artificial, a ploy to trick me into falsely incriminating myself.
That's what 7 months plotting and scheming in the darkness. That's the natural conclusion he's come up with. Now, if you were innocent, you wouldn't have to spend 7 months in the darkness talking to a team of 4 lawyers to formulate this. You'd have said it instantly. You'd have said, "You're making this up, you crazy bitch. Fuck off, cunt." Or you'd have done a based Jarbo and told her to sit on razor blades. You wouldn't have waited 7 months. Admit to consulting lawyers to formulate this statement.
To 3 very experienced lawyers that I consulted, this happens all the time. In the course of
no, it doesn't.
Down,
no, it doesn't. It doesn't. It doesn't happen all the time. It doesn't happen. No, it's not every day that Millennial Woes, leader of the white race, walks into the office and goes, "Look, guys, I've got a case for you." This doesn't happen all the time. This doesn't happen. Like, this is unique in the history of time itself.
Called into going along with falsehoods, which are later used against him. The fact is, no other woman has ever made such claims against me.
Lies!
Indeed, neither did she on the night.
Well, maybe because they were all Ladsworth.
At that point, she kept saying that I was very sensual and a very special man. How on earth did that...
So, in blaming the victim, he inflates his own sexual prowess. Can you imagine if Harvey Weinstein stood up in court and did that? Can you imagine the statement being read by anyone legitimately accused of full sexual assault allegations? Can you imagine? This is literally like he's written his own death. He'd written and signed his own death warrant. Like, just he might as well have just had flashing text on the screen accompanying the statement saying, "Lock me up, I am guilty."
Then too, he assaulted me. Because, after accepting that she wasn't going to get a relationship from me, she convinced herself that she had been tricked, when in fact she was the one who initiated sexual relations on the night, and then convinced herself that I was a monster, and that I deserved to lose my career and reputation.
Well, look, I don't think she took much convincing to realise that you were a monster. I mean, I think you should be put in, like, children's storybooks as, like, mythical monster man that we should all fear and not become, you know? Don't become the Colin. Don't become the Colin. don't be Wozy. You know, the Wozy under the beds. I think that's how you should be portrayed in the folklore of humanity. I don't think you should be hailed as the leader of the white race. I think this woman's assessment of you being a monster is pretty bang on the money. I think she was gaslit and deluded beforehand to the point where she's actually managed to get herself into your flat. Willingly, I'm going to believe that one. But I don't necessarily, I really don't necessarily believe that you are not like a Krampus figure. That you're not like a Gruffalo.
I say convinced herself. I don't know whether she ever actually believed her version of events, but she certainly convinced several other people. Only after.
So this is what matters, right? This is what matters. This is really why Millennial Woes is doing this, because he was cast out from the Grifter Temple. She convinced Mark Collett, based Mark in a moment of basedness. He decided to say, "Look, you've got to go. This is credible evidence." You're telling me that Mark Collett hasn't had this shit every single day of his life, being accused by all of these ethots that want to sleep with him? You're telling me that he hasn't had this happen all of his life? And you know what Mark Collett does? He goes, "No, fuck you, get fucked. I haven't done it." No, for all of Mark Collett's faults, that's how he behaves in this situation as an innocent man. Mark Collett doesn't have a big dossier of sexual abuse on him that's credible. Because everyone else would have thrown him out of the temple if that was the case, like they did with you, Millennial Woes. The fucking Jabberwocky of the ethno-state.
About me, did her increasingly vengeful behaviour begin to trouble those people? Gradually, they concluded that they had been tricked. She had done this by using a select number of messages that had passed between us.
She had done this by presenting the evidence at hand. Relevant evidence at hand. To my mensch, my God King, Mark Collett. I love you, Mark Collett.
I showed the entire message.
Mark Collett is a mensch, Gator!
And a police officer. Trained professionals. Very experienced.
So now he's got police officers involved. Now he's got like a team of police officers. They're not out there solving burglaries and murders and rapes. Instead, they're out there in a Discord with Millennial Woes as he's crying and coping with them. Instead, they've all got Discord accounts. Look, I know before I even made this video that it was so blatantly obvious that this was a farce. Whatever Millennial Woes was doing with this statement was like a complete farce. But maybe there were a few people who clicked on this video as like legitimate Millennial Woes fans that think he's going to save the white race. But surely to God, at least by now, we're not even halfway through his actual video. I don't even know if he'll complete it because I'm essentially running out of how many times I can call this a joke. That I can say this man is very obviously guilty, and I don't even need to whip out the screenshots that we've all seen because his own words damn him.
Assault cases. All four of these people came back to me saying that it's so obvious I was framed that the police probably wouldn't even investigate the case. And if they did, it almost certainly wouldn't go to court. And if it did, I would almost certainly be completely exonerated.
So there you go. You've got the Cope Discord Council that he's sourcing here. Believe Officer Dibble with a Discord account. But believe Paul Blart Moorcop with the Discord account on Millennial Woes' advisory council there. That's a legitimate source. Why he can't point to a legal professional and go, this is XXQC who said this? Because they don't want to go on record. They don't want to actually put their reputation on the line, if they're real, to defend Millennial Woes. Anything that's... let's believe it. Let's fucking get into the Twilight Zone. Let's believe that Millennial Woes is actually consulting with lawyers and legal professionals, right? Why isn't he sourcing them? You know, they're public practitioners. They don't do this stuff on Discord. The hacker known as 4chan.
That is the opinion not of amateurs, but of 4 legal professionals. And they are seeing the very same evidence that those amateurs were led to believe spelled my guilt. My Wikipedia page says that there was compelling evidence against me. There wasn't. There was a set of messages...
Just think about this. We live in a world where Millennial Woes has a Wikipedia page. A Wikipedia page that I assume is longer than George Bush's? That I assume is longer than the sitting president of the United States of America? Donald Trump? Donald J. I assume this man's Wikipedia page is thousands and thousands of words long, detailing all of his exploits saving the white race, but leaving out all relevant detail, like the Rent Boy saga, like the Avolian aristocrat arc, like going around Europe looking at synth shops saga. But finally, some brave human being out there has decided to actually document this on this man's Wikipedia page that I assume isn't actually like Colin Robertson, his name. I assume the Wikipedia entry is Millennial Woes and leaves out all manner of his docs. I assume there's no fucking date of birth or location or anything credible approaching a fucking normal Wikipedia entry. I assume it's entirely authored by Millennial Woes himself.
Me and my accuser, which can easily be explained. There is nothing in those messages which is not covered by what I have said here. To reiterate, I was being far too accommodating in a naive attempt to comfort someone who was trying to frame me.
We're going to shut that off, because did you hear that shit? He was being overly accommodating to a very obvious and apparent crazy bitch if you're being falsely accused of this stuff. You wouldn't accommodate, you would not accommodate this person. You would not tell them to shut up and try and buy their silence and say it would ruin my career if any of this got out. You wouldn't say that. You'd just say, get fucked. Be gone. Ho. Well, there we go. That was the comedy hour with Millennial. That was Morecambe and Woes' Christmas special. Jesus. I don't know what to say to that. Does he think that makes him an innocent? Does he think this fully exonerates him now? Does he think there are people out there? Does he think Mark Collette's going to retract his apology? He probably will. And if he does, I'm going to be so baffled. Does he genuinely think now that he can walk around in public as a free man? That Woes' redemption project in the 7 months he's had with all of these lawyers and police professionals has paid off by formulating this speech? Does he genuinely believe that he's been pardoned? So many questions. He did delete the video. He did delete them. So he did delete the video shortly after uploading it. So I assume... I assume he thought, I've made a terrible mistake. I assume he thought, God, this just makes me look guilty, Your Honor. But there we go, lad. That was a good one. That was... stay tuned, because I don't know where this is going. Maybe there's going to be another video responding to this video. Maybe there's a Millennial Woes interaction arc going on now. Stay tuned.